girls care more about getting pregnant and catching something, but boys are more careless about it. And what I've seen with my friends, some boys, they're quite pushy for you to having sex with a girl without using a condom.
Okay. It's
like they don't have a condom, they want to have sex. You say, well, I don't want to do it, but then they'll say, but it's okay, and and then you're just pressure into you, and then you end up having it.
It's very difficult to find a family planning clinic that's
in this area.
Yeah, that you're in the catchment area and that will be open on the day, because the one that I go to is only open on Fridays from 12 till 2, and basically you have to get there about 11:30 to 11 o'clock to actually get to the front of the queue to make sure that you're seen. And it's
when I found pregnant with I was 16. I found out when I was 17, so I was nearly 17. I was 6 weeks pregnant when I found out, and I was just 17 basically. School didn't tell me nothing about sex. School's shit for sex. They don't tell you nothing. All they say is what the woman looks like and what the male looks like. They don't tell you like any details. They say don't get pregnant, don't do this, but they don't tell you details. They just say don't get pregnant, and they give you a box of Tampax and a condom. That's it. That's all you get.
Well, my contraception did fail on me, but I don't mind. I love my child, love my children, so I don't really mind.
Okay, it's split or?
Yes, it's split. Yes.
Okay, and your partner didn't use emergency contraception then?
All right. At the time, she didn't know, because we were trying to go to a clinic and they're trying to book her in for a appointment. What type of appointment? I mean, some of these clinics are weird, and we're trying to find a walk-in, and then you have to register with some walk-in clinics, but they said you have to be registered to the area, so it was time went kind of quick, because you only got about 3 days.
I was 15.
Okay.
And I started going there, and I was like, what do I say? What do I ask for? And I just went there, and they're really friendly service. They're really kind, confident, friendly, and they help you whatever your problem is.
Who gave you a lecture?
The woman at the family planning. Well, you should really use a condom. You shouldn't rely on a mini pill, the morning after pill. It's like, well, I know accidents do happen, and that's the only thing that sometimes you feel uncomfortable with, is like when, well, you feel like they're putting you down, or trying to give you a lecture about something.
I wanted to ask you how easy it is for a teenage Bangladeshi girl to have access to these services.
It's not very. You'd be literally looking over your shoulder every minute. To this day, sometimes I get paranoid going into places to get contraception, and because everyone thinks that I'm married. Every family planning clinic I know, you're going to bump into some Asian family there. That's why I wouldn't use it, and I don't use it. I don't use the clinic. I went there once and I came back straight away. I didn't go in to use it properly, I just felt so uncomfortable.
I found out I was pregnant probably about 3 weeks into the pregnancy. It was a complete shock, because he was conceived as a one-off, and I had taken the morning after pill, and it didn't occur to me at all that I would be pregnant until I had a funny tingling in my boob, and I did a test and found out, so it was a complete shock.
So it wasn't a planned pregnancy? No. Was it difficult to decide what to do in that situation?
I never thought it would be, because I don't believe in abortion, at least not in that circumstance. And I never thought it would be, but actually it was such a shock and such an upset. It crossed my mind what to do about the pregnancy, but only flickering. It didn't take long, and I knew I wouldn't be able to go through with an abortion.
Is she approachable? Can you ask her things?
My midwife, yeah, she's very nice and approachable, but I just find it, because it's my first, I don't know kind of what to expect. I only know what to expect if someone maybe asks me, well, have you done this? And I'm like, well, has your midwife asked you this? And I'm like, well, she hasn't, to be honest. So then when I see my midwife, I go and ask her, well, has such and such happened, and how do I do such and such at certain times? Because when I normally see my midwife, I get checked for the normal checks, like a urine, my blood pressure, and the position of the baby. But she doesn't ask me any other questions apart from that, to be honest. Which I'm fine how.
That is it because she thinks you're young, or what?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. Because it's my first time. I don't know what to expect, and I don't really know how it works. So.
And you don't know what you don't know.
No, exactly.
And then I, in typical fashion, didn't get my period, so I decided to take a pregnancy test, and it came back positive. And so I called the doctor and said, I think I'm pregnant, and they said, you can come in if you want. So I did. I went in, and they said, well, why do you think you're pregnant? And I said, I took a pregnancy test and it said I was pregnant. And they said, well, then you're pregnant. And that was it. They didn't want to talk to me or tell me anything. I kind of would have liked, I think, more information at that point, because I'd never been pregnant before and I didn't know what I was supposed to eat or do or anything like that.
It was difficult because I was single. There was an automatic assumption that there was a decision to make over whether I keep the baby or not, which to me there wasn't really. At least I hadn't told anybody else there was. When the midwife came round to for my first booking in my home, she actually commented on, am I wasting my time being here? Are you going to actually keep this baby? Which I found really, really difficult, because I made no reference to having a termination or anything like that. I had no intentions of it. So her attitude, presumably because I was single, because I'm young, was that, am I going to get rid of it? Which I found really difficult, actually. And it spoilt the relationship between me and my midwife for the rest of the pregnancy. Because she's obviously, to me that means she's got a view in her mind of who I am and the type of person I am. And so I find it difficult to relax with her and be comfortable with her and be myself with her.
I think it was about 2-3 weeks before I went for my scan. So I was about 3-4 weeks I was going on, oh, I don't want the baby. But they're all saying to me, just wait, just wait. You'll see how you feel in the next few weeks. But when I went in for my first scan and I seen it, that was it. I knew that I wanted this baby and I'd love this baby. Do you know what I mean? But I think that was a turning point for me then. When I went and actually had my first scan, that was the turning point for me. That this baby was mine and it was growing inside me. And I wouldn't have had it any other way. And I thought that this woman did just a wonderful job of explaining everything and taking her time and showing us where the nose bone was and that making us feel a part of it. I mean, she made us feel like we were a part of it and that we had some sort of say and that we had brains. I mean, it was nice to feel like you were a part of the process.
I was abused as a child and have issues about men, and it was very difficult because I had a little girl already. I was petrified actually that I'd have a baby boy and that I wouldn't love it, that I would hate it. On the day of my 20-week scan, I was saying in the morning, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm so scared they're going to tell me it's a baby boy. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be able to cope.
What was the moment where you realised, I'm going to have a little boy and it's okay?
I think I fell in love with him while I was having the scan. I think I just fell in love with him and I just thought it doesn't matter. I didn't have any tests when I was pregnant because I knew in my own mind, from working with children with disabilities and from my beliefs as a Christian, that actually I wouldn't have a termination anyway. I'm not against terminations in all circumstances, but I knew I wouldn't be able to have one. I would live with it. So my view was I didn't want to waste time and money having these tests when when I wouldn't do anything about it anyway, and it could interfere with the pregnancy. I still had my 20-week scan because I thought if there were any problems I'd be able to prepare for them. But having said that, the view of a couple of the healthcare professionals was quite negative of, well, I don't see why you're bothering with this scan because you're not having the tests anyway and there's nothing we could do about it if there is a problem with your child. It was very negative. I think they're all for these tests and they don't like it if you don't go along with them.
So, when they took all these blood tests, did you know what any of them were for?
No, they just took them. No, so they didn't say. They just wanted to check, I think, the iron levels and things like that, and that's how it came about. But they did take more blood than usual on one occasion. I didn't know why, but they just had to check everything that was right.
Have you ever looked back over any of the stuff in your notes? Did it say anywhere in the written information this is what they were doing, as far as you know?
No. No.
So this was a complete out of the blue shock?
Yeah, definitely.
My health visitor, she asked me if I wanted the baby to get a Hill test. I said yes. And she said, I need to sign the form. So I signed the form and then she got it done. And then after a few weeks, then they phoned me. No, the specialist phoned me and she said she wanted to see me. But at that time, I already knew. So I just guessed. I said, why she has come to make an appointment to see me at home. So I said to myself, well, I know. If she's coming, then my son's got sickle cell. Because if he didn't, they would write to me. If she's coming in person, it means he's got it. So I was expecting it anyway.
Well, you didn't always get the same midwife. You had all different ones. Some of them were nice. Some of them were a bit funny with you. They'd just like lie on the bed, check the baby's heartbeat. Oh yeah, that's fine. You're in, that's fine. Okay, see you in 3 weeks or see you whenever. Do you know? Other ones though, they'd sit there and talk to you and ask if you got any problems and things like that.
And if you were going to offer advice to health professionals like doctors and midwives about how to deal with young people, very young women who are having babies, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd ask them, I'd actually tell them that you need to get on the wavelength of the person that you're talking to. Because most of them, well, they talk down to you as if I know what I'm talking about, I'm a professional, things like this, and I've done this for years kind of thing.
I didn't find the classes helpful for the birth prep because I found them embarrassing actually. When I was actually in labour, I'd forgotten all of it. I'd forgotten when to breathe in, when to breathe out. I was just sort of screaming blue murder, just in so much pain. So I didn't really remember any of it. I didn't find them particularly helpful.
Are you able to say what was embarrassing about them?
It was a bit embarrassing because of all the funny positions you've got to get in, and also I suppose it made me feel a bit awkward that everybody was there with their partners. Everybody had taken their husbands along, and there's me, my mum and my sister, and I think it drew a lot of attention yet again to the fact that I was single and young, seeing all these couples here, and then there's, you know, me with my sister and my mum. That it just sort of drew attention to me, I felt. first pregnancy, my birth plan for my first pregnancy was to keep it as natural as possible. I wasn't against having drugs, but if I could cope without them, I'd try. And I would have liked to have had a water birth. It ended up, in fact, that I had, I think, every sort of painkiller that there was, everything, and then ended up in an emergency cesarean.
I just feel like I should have had, but I suppose because my labour was so long. Well, my waters broke Tuesday night and I didn't have him till Thursday night, but that was after they induced me on the Thursday evening because I wasn't dilating. So I had midwives like coming and going, and every midwife I had was, oh, we're going to have a baby and blah blah blah, and then they'll be coming back to say in 4 hours time, oh, I'm going home now, bye. And it was like, oh no, don't leave me, I'm having a baby. And they're like, no, this one will look after you. And it kind of went on like that for the couple of days, so it wasn't very personal. It was more of a, you all right, let me just check you over, okay, see you in a little while, and they went, sort of thing. I suppose I didn't mind it at the time because I was with my partner and my best friend, so I didn't feel like I was being to just, you know, I didn't feel like I was just being left to get on with it because I had them two there to support me. But I can imagine if I was in there by myself and had exactly the same treatment, I think I'd have been a mess. Because they do leave you for a long while, they do, unsupervised and that, so.
So she was in special care for 3 days, which was also difficult because when you have the baby and they're taken into special care, it's almost like they're not your baby because you're allowed to come in and visit the baby and touch the baby, but it's the carers in that ward that are actually looking after your newborn baby, which was quite difficult. And I didn't feel I was very well informed on what was going on with her and why they were doing everything they were doing. I found it quite upsetting. So, and second time round, the whole thought of going through that again, it was just too much for me. So I persuaded them that elective cesarean would be best. They weren't entirely happy about that though. And once it was planned that I was going to have the cesarean, there was no more talk of should I or shouldn't I. It was just, that's what you're going to do. And they were great about helping me overcome my fear. And I went into the theatre and everyone was laughing and joking and talking about the baby, and it took away from my fear completely. And they were just fantastic, and you felt like you knew them really well because they were just so lovely, and you wouldn't want a nicer bunch to be with you when your baby was born. And the experience of being there and seeing the baby lifted out was amazing because I was knocked out for my first pregnancy. So it's the first time I'd seen one of my children be born, and it was lovely. And I don't know, to anyone I would say, you know, it's not something to worry about. It was a lovely, lovely experience.
So what do you think your role was in the decision making this time about this delivery? Because obviously you didn't have that choice with the first birth.
I feel like I had a lot more sort of choice in this one, a lot more, I don't know, I just felt more informed. I think because you've got no choice, you feel worse because you feel like you felt.
So how do you feel about the way that this baby was born?
Brilliant. I feel so differently actually than with, and I just felt after I felt ill, and I felt like I'd failed, and it got me quite down actually. But this time I was sort of, I couldn't believe how well I felt. I felt like I felt too well, that I was panicking that I was feeling too well really, and that I was a lot more, I don't know, it just felt the way I would expect you to feel after you've had a baby. I felt this time. Unlike last time, I didn't feel, you're supposed to be happy when you had a baby, but the first time I didn't, but this time I was just really, really nice.
And then by 9:15 my waters went at home, which I thought was really strange because I never had any of that the first time round. And then by 9:30 I was running to the hospital in my mum's car. Couldn't wait to get there, needed to get there. And I was on the gas in there the minute I got in the room, and they were so relaxed in there. Like I kept going on about I'm having a vagina birth after cesarean, you know, bring the team in to be prepared as I was expecting. And it was this chilled out midwife, and she potted around the little room as if I was just any other woman having a normal delivery. So that relaxed me a little bit.
ask you about your determination to breastfeed. What did you know about breastfeeding when you were pregnant?
I didn't really, to be honest, I didn't look into it. My mother had breastfed. My mother's side of the family, my grandmother, my aunts, had all breastfed, so they were very much for. My partner's mother hadn't, and I don't think many of his family had. But because I'd grown up like that, and I'd grown up watching my aunts breastfeed my cousins, etc., to me that was just what happened. There wasn't another option. I wasn't, but I didn't look into it. I just naively assumed it was easy, which I think, you know, for some people it is, but not for all people. And there is, you know, it can be hard. But going back to because I had this bad labour and I felt a bit of a failure for not doing things. I felt I didn't do things myself because it was assisted. That made me even more determined to succeed at breastfeeding, because I didn't want to give up on the two things that were really important to me, because, you know, unlike some women, I was really looking forward to labour. That was a very special thing for me, and to have a natural special labour was something that I was looking forward to and enjoying rather than being scared of. And with the breastfeeding, I was looking forward to that. So when my labour didn't quite go to plan, it made me even more determined that I was going to succeed at one of the things that I set out to do.
Has that made you feel better about
it? Yeah, definitely. Because I was confronted with so many problems, you know, now that I've got over that and it is a pleasure to feed, looking back, I do feel very proud that I stuck with it. I go to a breastfeeding group, Bosom Buddies, and they've been fantastic there as well. The support that I received there was fantastic. And all the time they say, you know, how much they admire me, because not a lot of younger mums these days do breastfeed, or they, you know, according to them, they said, you know, they perhaps wouldn't have stuck with it as much as what I'd done. So that's nice to hear. It's always nice, isn't it, when you get praise. But, yeah.
With the second one, because there was complications, I had to have an emergency C-section. He wasn't breathing when he was born, so they just took him away for an hour. I didn't know whether it was a boy or a girl, or whether it was alive, and they were running around trying to resuscitate the baby. But it took an hour after he was born, bless you, for him to latch onto the breast. But I was reading something which it said once a baby is born, it's important that the first hour they latch on. So I was really concerned that he wasn't going to get onto the breast on time, because it says the first hours. And so because they took him away, I thought it was going to take hours and hours before they brought him back. And when they did bring him back, they said to me that his glucose was low, so they had to give him fake milk. That's what I call it, fake milk. So I didn't understand why they had to give him milk that wasn't from me, basically. So I asked them, why can't I give him breast milk? And they said it would be better for him if he had fake milk. And I said, I think it would be better for him if he has his mum's milk, and I'd like him to latch on, because it's been an hour already as it is. You know, it was getting a bit ridiculous. I was really wanted him to latch on. So they just gave him to me and he latched on straight away.
So how long did it take you to come right?
She went off to see, all my family were outside. She came back to me, she went to sleep. It was about 5-6 o'clock in the morning when she woke, and it wasn't until she woke then, I'd been to sleep as well, it wasn't until she woke that I was like, right, okay, no one's here to look after this baby, so I'm gonna have to stop her crying somehow. So I took her out and I sat in the chair with her and just stopped with her for a second and just looked, and then I was a bit like, okay, it's my baby. Wow.
And what did you do with her?
I attempted to breastfeed her, yeah. The midwives hadn't asked me whether I wanted to breastfeed. I was quite annoyed with that. They didn't actually ask me how I was feeding her until the next day. It was the evening of that next day. They came to me and said, oh, how are you breastfeeding your baby? I was like, well, I've been breastfeeding since 5 o'clock this morning, so. But because I'd been to the workshops and things with Sure Start, I was well away. I knew how to position her. I knew what I was doing, although I was upset. I was crying a lot because I couldn't get her latched on. but she on and off fed for about 3 hours. I was there, just kept putting up with it, you know, putting her on. She'd suckle for a bit and then she'd let go, have a scream, and just on and off like that.
Because I did feel on the ward after I'd had the baby, the midwife sort of left you to get on with it a little bit, and they're so run off their feet as well that I didn't like to keep saying, oh, can you come and help me with this, and the baby's not feeding for very long, and that perhaps even if like auxiliaries or something took an opening into just learning like the different ways of positioning, which I know that some hospitals are doing that now in this area, which is I think will be a benefit to mothers, breastfeeding mums in hospital, just to have that a little bit of support at the very beginning, rather than having the problems and then going about them then when the baby's like a month or two old, when the baby's already, it's quite hard to get them out of the habit then. Whereas if you catch in the early days, they're still learning, so you can adapt it.
I was breastfeeding and the midwife came over. I got really, and then I was breastfeeding him, and some of the midwives were saying, oh, you should be bottle feeding, and you know, all this, because we got some of the midwives are not that supportive, I have to admit, but and I didn't want to hear it. I didn't care. I just breastfed him continuously, and afterwards the doctors found out he had a bit of jaundice, so he was in the incubator. He was in the incubator for a good 6 days, and also the doctor even told me not to breastfeed. The doctor told me to bottle feed, otherwise the jaundice is going to take time for it to go. But I didn't listen to them. I didn't care. Whenever he wanted to milk, I just got him out, breastfed him, put him back. I got told off a few times, mind you. I got told off. They told me I shouldn't be doing that, because the more you take the baby out, baby gets less less light, and the jaundice takes time. I said it doesn't. I believe the more you breastfeed, the better he will get, the quicker. And I ignored them. I honestly ignored them as I was doing what I had to do. And after 4 or 5 days, we were out of the hospital, and he was absolutely fine. And he's a healthy, wonderful baby boy running around now, and I love him to bits. I felt it was my responsibility to, as a mother, to give what he is for him, because in our religion it says it's a God-given thing. Otherwise, we wouldn't be producing milk.
Being a parent hasn't been as difficult so far as I anticipated. Having a baby hasn't been as difficult as I anticipated. And I know that my partner feels the same way, but I know it's just the beginning. So I'm not sure how it's going to change. But I am expecting for it to be very difficult at times. I feel that we've settled into it quite quickly and got used to the lifestyle change. And I was really someone that went out all the time, and now I can't ever go out, but I don't mind. And it seems to be all worthwhile, and it's funny because I saw people before I had the baby that would say, oh, but you know, it's all worth it. And I thought, oh God, I'm not going to be like that at all. But I feel really funny. But I do, that it is worthwhile, and that I just felt that it hasn't been too challenging so far. It's just come to me that I want to look after him, or that I'm enjoying the change in my life.
There's a positive side and all that, like you can do more with them and everything like that, but there's not so much like good thing, because when we first had children, we wasn't financially ready, and we did very struggle a lot for the first year, 18 months, So I mean, thank God for like my family and my wife's family. We helped us get through. But that's like the good reasons and the bad reasons of having children young and waiting. Do you know what I mean? Like waiting till you be older to get financially ready.
I mean, does it feel strange to you in some way to be so young yourself and to have all this responsibility?
Well, like it did at first. I was a bit overwhelmed at first because I thought to myself, I've got her now for like 18 years or longer. Do you know what I mean? But I'm going to have to look after her. Like she's going to depend on me now for the rest of her life, and I'm going to be able to cope with this and things like that. And that's I think that's what upset me the most. The thought that I was thinking to myself, am I going to be a bad mum? You know, and there's people going to judge me because like, I'm so young and having a baby and things like that. But now it doesn't bother me because like I've done it for 6 months now. I've got like the rest of her life to do it. I'm trying my hardest and that's all I can do. I can only do it, like do the best to my ability.
Very. If I got pregnant now, I wouldn't have it. I'd either have an abortion or I'd put it up for adoption. I know now I can barely look after myself financially and just in general. And I couldn't cope looking after a baby. And I don't want to cope looking after a baby. I wouldn't want to have one and end up going home and living in my parents' house with a baby, because there's no quality of life, which is what's important to me. When I have children, I want to have children in a stable atmosphere where I can give them what they need. And at the moment I can't. I'm that much in debt, I wouldn't be able to afford to have a baby. And I wouldn't be able to, I think I'd resent it, because I'd have to give up my degree. And I think I'd always resent it for that. And I don't want to have children in that situation.